So welcome everybody, and thank you for coming again. Our conversation about creating a podcast to light the candle. And I'll just kind of go around the room and just introduce everybody. I'll start with me, and I'm Bill Carell, and I'm a business owner and a devout, caring person, and I really am interested in making the world a better place whenever possible. So we're starting a conversation here that we intend to have light the world on fire in a very positive way. So to my right is Lisa. So be my guest.
Lisa Sheehan. I am media person turned spiritual seeker turned Epic magazine owner, whose mission is to empower people and inspire community. I think that says most of it.
You're for people, aren't you?
Oh, definitely. Yes. There's the mission there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Vanessa
Lewis. I am a songwriter turned freelance marketing writer, or we'll say professional freelance writer. And I am all for being part of this conversation that reveals truth, or just is great conversation.
That too. So that's very interesting. More to say about that later. Ken?
Yeah.
I'm Ken Caputo, and I don't know how I describe myself. I do it different each time because
you forget.
All right. Yeah.
So I guess my primary roles are in helping make learning something that's beneficial to everyone, and really impacting the world through business is the other big thing. So yeah, so just do bunches of stuff, whatever's needed.
Cool. Thank you. Shelley, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry I was late. So I guess that could be a quick slide in, because my friends always tell me I'm not very punctual. No, I think I am. Anyway, so Shelley Kohler, I am a coach turned business consultant, entrepreneur. I am a very tenacious person. If there's something to be found, I will find a way to do it, all with caring and making a difference in the world. I am very much about people and Mother Earth, taking care of it. And even on the bigger platform is really, creating or hopping on or presenting a conversation that changes the world and how people see it, which then entails a mindset about why we're all here. So that's me, and it changes just like Ken. It can change depending on where I am, but I am very much a business minded person that has the left and right brain balance to really bring the two worlds together.
That's terrific. So all of us that are business minded people, put your hand in the air, because we are the ones that actually sustain the growth and the change. Our ability to reach folks, because we have access to some things that not all people on the planet do, makes us very uniquely positioned, to have a voice and to speak for all those who can't be heard. And I think that's a pretty daunting responsibility at times, but mostly I try to have fun with it, And in the meantime, what I wanted to say, just to welcome everybody here today, by way of update, Vanessa had sent me 2 weeks ago, I believe, an email, and I finally got a chance to really go through it in some depth at, 2:30 in the morning this morning, and it was quiet, and the kitty cat wasn't making any noise, and so I could concentrate on it a little bit. So we actually have a way forward to do what we're doing and use the platform of Facebook if we choose to do it that way. We can be multi-platform and do a podcast on in a different place, such as Instagram or on YouTube. So I'm going to be exploring that a little bit. If any of you have experience with it, I've asked Vanessa if she would join the project for getting this out where more people can see it, because there's clearly an opportunity to increase the viewership and listenership, and possibly people who are going to want to come on and talk to us, in person from time to time, if we do the podcast route. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
Who has experience with doing podcasts at all? Ken, did you ever get anything like Facebook Live going or something of that nature?
We've done Facebook Live through through Quester's Way in the martial arts school, but nothing really that formal.
Yes.
We actually had a couple of pretty cool things. Like we did an Ask Me Anything, where we just had all the instructors hanging out and people were putting comments, then we'd answer them live. So it's kind of neat because it was real time and interactive.
Yes.
And of course, then you can watch the recording, but that's about it. And I've never really, I listened to a lot of podcasts, but I've never done one. I've guested on a couple of them, but that was about it.
Sure. And anyone else?
We do a Facebook Live every day,
Okay.
every weekday.
Yeah.
My co-publisher does it because I'm manning the feed. But we use a Be Live. It's called. It's between Facebook and your computer, kind of thing.
So, Lisa, do you have the time and the interest to help us more formalize this over the next few weeks?
I could probably ask, and Samantha would probably be better at it, so I could probably get her involved.
That would be great.
Because she uses it every day, and she knows how to do the crawl over the thing, how to put your logo up the top, all that fun stuff. So
excellent. I'm really pleased to hear that. Good. So let's just kind of again go back around the room again, and any thoughts that you have on your mind with regard to what you've observed since the last time we got together. If there's anything that kind of was noteworthy to you, or you thought to yourself, that's not okay with me, or I'm really, really pleased to see that. If there were anything at those extremes, because we have a bell curve in terms of behavior of our population in the world and in our communities and in our country, I think. And so most of the people are in that silent middle where there's almost a dead zone in terms of what they have to say is being said quietly to each other or not at all as they're busy going about having their regular lives. And then the media can be on both ends of the spectrum in terms of trying, to get us to have an emotional response to things. And I haven't watched news. I turned it on 1 hour so that I could have something to talk about today, because I don't follow Facebook posts that have anything to do with any of the unrest that's going on, because I'm not interested in reading people's opinions. I'm only interested at some point of finding a Charles Kuralt or maybe somebody like, a Walter Cronkite that just tells you that that's the way it was today, So
Yeah.
I'll start again. Vanessa, do you have something to say?
I just said yes to what you said, but I can just say that the conversations that I had, the isms this week, of course, what you were just saying, what's in the news, and so what's on everyone's tongues is the Black Lives Matter, and little towns like our little town, had peaceful protests, and some cities are having not so peaceful protests. But actually, I think those are pretty much done for now. But it was interesting to hear, the majority of the conversation I had, even if it was just saying, hey, what? Well, I'll just say Black Lives Matter was on the tip of people's tongues, but a lot of people were saying, and this is interesting to me because this was a mistake that I made a couple of years ago and finally figured it out. And there was a Facebook cartoon that a friend posted where I said, oh, I said exactly what I just told you guys. I got it. It took me a little time, but I got it. And so, and I was able to go around and share with friends, at least my perspective in getting it, if you will. Because a lot of people, when they say, oh, this Black Lives Matter, and they counter it with, well, all lives matter. Well, of course, all lives matter. And I don't want to be flippant about that, but I think it's safe to say we can say that's obvious and that's a good place. But the Black Lives Matter that's not what the movement is. The movement is all about, when we say all lives matter, then it's the Black lives that end up getting overlooked. For some reason, just it's been a systemic problem growing within our culture for longer than any of us realize, I think. The way I understand the Black Lives Matter to be is that we're spotlighting Black lives. And do you want me to just quickly share with you the cartoon, the way I understood it?
Absolutely.
Sure.
So I was looking to share the illustration with verbally, but I couldn't find it, the cartoon again, but buried somewhere out there on the internet. But it was basically stating, the difference between Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter is if we say, we want to save the rainforest, but all trees matter. But we're not talking about all trees and all species of trees. We're talking about just the trees that grow in the rainforest. And so we want to save the rainforest because it's rainforest trees that matter. And so for me, at least, that became very clear where I had, what I just said, that, well, this is about, at least I understood it then, in a big part because of this cartoon, to understand that it's the Black lives that are, with this movement, are being spotlighted. And it has nothing to do with all lives matter. We want to just put that aside and say, well, yes, of course they do. Police lives matter, right? White lives matter. All race matters. But, and all religions matter, we'll say, for the sake of this conversation. Well, I mean, they do, but in this case, we're going to spotlight the Black lives. So that's at least how I understand the Black Lives Matter movement, and it's by help of that cartoon. So.
Thank you. I appreciate you kind of sharing that story with us. Does anybody have any response or any thoughts with response to what Vanessa said?
I was part of, just because of how it played out, like several conversations. My church, we're studying a book called The Eye of the Storm, which is about conflict and nothing is against you.
Sure. And
we were flipping it into what's happening today. So that was an interesting shift on, if nothing is against us, how do we see the other side, that kind of thing. Another part was one of the people on our Epic tribe he's African American, so we had him on our Facebook Live last week explaining everything and trying to think of and expressing how we as white people can help. And my take on all this too was the first time I felt comfortable saying, as a white person, what can I do? Because before it felt like you couldn't say those things. Like, as a Black person, how do you feel we should do it? I felt like you were stepping on toes or walking on eggshells because everybody got defensive. And now the lines of communication are open. At least that's how I see it. And everybody's talking, and I signed up for a book club that's going to read a different African-American book every month, that kind of thing. And at church, we have one African-American family, but she was there. We had a discussion after church on Zoom, and, her take on having what she has to explain to her child, her teenage boys, and she's got a teenage boy and a younger son and a daughter, but, how they have to try even harder, and how she works at a university, and they had gotten rid of their diversity department, and now they're suddenly saying, oh, I think we should bring back our diversity department. And everybody's going, yeah, that might be a good idea. So, things that are just like silently and like slowly like eroded away that become the mainstay of society. And then all of a sudden something brings it all to light that, wait a minute, we just shoved that under the carpet. Now we got to bring it back out again. You know, this is silly. So, and I feel I might be different, but I feel happy about what's happening. I feel so positive about the communication that's happening. The fact that I can discover in me what's been hidden and bring that out and heal it and become a better version of me because of what's going on. And I do think all these, you attack one ism, you could probably help settle all of them. You know, at least I think it will have a reverberation effect once we start doing this. That was my week.
Great thoughts, absolutely. Ken, you were really engaged non-verbally. Did you have some thoughts?
Oh, I just always practice listening fully to whoever's actually. That'd be an interesting thing, just as I've been in conversation with people, is training themselves to listen with their being, not just trying to hear with their ears. So so there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people that are trying to share things, and on the other side there's a filter that we all have through our personal experiences and everything. So it creates those barriers, and, and that's usually where you see the tension come up. So I've just been, practicing listening as we're going through. I guess my biggest observation that came out of, and I've been doing this for a while anyway, so it was just kind of a continuation. It's just, what would the world be like if we were filled with masterful teachers? Like if everyone took on the role of thinking, okay, I'm going to come into this open to learning where you are at, and then sharing something that might be useful to you with you in a way that you can hear it. So instead of, I'm going to shout in your face and get you to listen to me, I'm going to pay attention to where you are now. It's like pace, lead, that kind of thing, and get skillful at breaking through those barriers, and, so that we can all go from where we currently are, current skill and knowledge base, and we can evolve that, So, and I feel very positive about a lot of the things that are happening right now as well, because it's kind of like things all boiled to a head, and now people are listening different. So, but wouldn't it be kind of cool if we were able to be skillful and not having to get it to the point of this level of intensity to open those lines of communication? So, but it happened, a little messy, but that's all right.
Thank you. Shelley?
Oh, you're on mute, Shelley.
Yes, and my apologies. I had to step away while Vanessa was speaking. My dogs were going crazy, and this has been my kind of day. But the isms, when Bill gave us that homework, it was, the isms have been a part of my life since I was a teenager. In regards to all of, I know that, alcoholism and all of that, right? All the isms kind of take on some contextual preconceived notions of who that person is and how we approach them and what we can say and what we can't. Lisa, I think you really hit what I feel as well. And Vanessa saying all lives matter. Same here. For many, a couple of years, I was like, all lives matter. It's kind of like that was, what I wanted to get across of like, I don't see color. I see a human. And, but in the context over the past 6 months and even just more so now, I get it too, Vanessa. Until Black Lives Matter in the context, all lives don't matter. So, bringing about the understanding of that statement. And it was, in a I don't want to say a cartoon, but it's been kind of plastered all over Facebook, and it continues to go around, because until people actually get that, those who are saying all lives matter won't understand the contextual part of that. Like, yeah, all lives do matter, but this one piece over here doesn't. This maple tree, like the bald eagles are in extinction. All birds matter, but we need to pay attention to the bald eagle right now, because we need to take care of it. Otherwise it will be gone. So, I think that is a perspective, and it's a mindset, and it's, I think what we are set out to do, in this blog, in this conversation, is to bring about those pieces, that portion in the middle, which is probably majority. How can we enlighten them to see what it is that the opposite ends are seeing? And Ken, to your point, absolutely, teachers, education. But there's so much going on inside the silence, right? That breaking through takes a statement, like Vanessa was sharing. Where I've seen, and what really has bothered me over this past week is, and it's kind of shifting to COVID, which they're kind of, the two worlds are kind of collapsing, but I'm assuming that they're going to swirl around and they're going to come out and have somewhat of the same silver linings. What really bothers me is, and I have no control over it, is people who aren't really taking into consideration other people. Like, they don't think that they need to wear a mask, or they don't need to follow the rules. They're thinking very internally and only about them. That is what is really brewing for me, that people are not taking into consideration others. It's not all just about me. When I can take myself out of the equation and get out of my own way, I can help a million more people than if I'm just focused on me. And I think that's it's something that people don't understand, or they've never had to do. Maybe they've always had to focus on. I've always had to just not pay attention and just work because I had to put food on the table for my family, or there's real viable reasons for that. But what if we could take them out of that perspective, and actually, when you put the focus on something else, greater things can happen, and it always comes back. But again, right, it's a mindset, and it's a conversation, and it's them being able to be in a place to be open, to hear it and receive it from a place. Bill, you'll totally understand this. A way of being that we're not living our future based upon our past.
Is that a good place for me to start?
Yes.
All right. First of all, I'm going to be inappropriate. Okay. I'm not going to be politically correct here. I'm actually going to tell it like it is. I have two son-in-laws of color. One is a half Navajo, raised part of his life on the Indian reservation and in Aneth, and the other one is a huge black man, absolutely lovable bear, who was raised in Brooklyn and was shot when he was 18 years old, and is a paraplegic. So I have to tell you that the conversation that I'm hearing about Black Lives Matter might be a little different than what other people are. We've gone through a 20-year history, almost 20 years, with these two men, and they met my daughters when they were men. They were in their 20s in back in 2002, 2003, and on. So I really want to distinguish what Black Lives Matter means to me for your, not to convince you, or I just want you to think about it in the context of the original when it got said the first time. This had to do with a particularly heinous killing of what seemed to be a very innocent young black man, and the exertion of deadly force when it was inappropriate. And so the family of that young black man basically said, we got to draw attention to this behavior. We got to draw attention to this specific thing that happened. They came up with the code words Black Lives Matter, which if you translate them mean stop killing our young men, during a stop and search, okay? This is not okay. We want to stop this right now. This is what we're talking about. What that has been used for and ballooned into by everybody from every sector, everyone that wants to sell newspapers, everyone that has a political agenda is a whole lot more than that. And whenever we generalize from the specific, we lose the power of that lesson. Whenever we take the behavior of one person and we say it's systemic across all whatever, we then take away the responsibility to take action with that one particular person. Am I making sense here? So we have a society now that is constantly in argument. And I like to say we give half our population matches and the other half fire extinguishers. And essentially, the loud noise that goes on while other people are joining the conversation and dragging in, Charlottesville and dragging in, Florida and all of these other things that I want you to know that there aren't hundreds, but there are thousands of people that are injured, in stop and searches and in arrests, both police and black men and white men. And as a matter of fact, there are actually more white men that are killed in those circumstances than there are black men. So the point that we're talking about here is, where do they usually occur? And what's the systemic problem there? And is it one person's fault? So this whole notion of white privilege, which to me is just the modern day forwarding of black man's burden, okay, from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. All of that was to say that in a truthful way, that people of color, because of where they came from and because of when they were treated as full human beings legally, and were not in fact treated as full human beings as a result of the legal process that created these so-called rights for them, actually, affirmative action and all these other things that were meant to correct ills of the past and were put into place by well-intentioned people, did the exact opposite. They drew attention to folks that didn't want or ask for that intention. It wasn't their generation that they were correcting the ills of. And so as we go along and we start to see the conversation spin out, we now have almost any kind of opportunity to devise people. It's being taken and it's being used politically. I want to just come back to the notion of we're people. People, damn it. Okay? That's it. End the game. I don't care what color you are. I don't care your shape. I don't care. All of that doesn't matter. We've got more to talk about in terms of what's going on in the world and what we need to accomplish. And it would be nice if we could get it to the point where people would stop throwing things at each other, shooting at each other, and burning each other's properties down. To sit down and talk. So this has, in my opinion, gotten to be such a large global problem that if I put my management hat on, this is common cause. This is something that's a relationship between how the rules are set and how the participants, in terms of either executing or following the rules, have their hands tied in terms of working. They're going to have to go outside the 9 dots in order to solve this. The solution is not in the past. I really like what you had said, Shelley, that set me up for this. We can't look backward for the solution that's going to make this disappear. And I love the meme, and I hope Morgan Freeman actually said it. If he did, he's a very brilliant man, and I'm in love with him forever, and I kind of am anyway. But the point is that stop calling me a black man. I'll stop calling you a white man. Let's just, be men, and when we can sit down together and just share each other's. I'm making up the rest of it, but the key piece of it is how you make this conversation disappear is to stop talking about it. Now, the challenge is, and thanks for letting me rant for a minute. The challenge is here. My grandchildren, and it's deep in my heart and in my soul. Are they white? Are they of color? They're mixed. I mean, who cares, really? Okay, unless there's some sort of financial, social, economic benefit they're going to get from being able to qualify for something. I think when that starts to be analyzed, that's not really being done with the best of intentions for the recipients. I think when we start sitting down and we start figuring out all the Polish people, all the Latvians, all the Italians, everybody who came from Europe, all the Chinese. Good Lord, people, everybody's had their turn, Do me a favor. If you were bullied at any time in your life, put your hand in the air. It's a common cause problem. It's a part of growing up. However, some people don't lose that bullying tendency when they get to be adults. They find places where they can execute their bullying with more abandon, in my opinion. So what I'm saying to you right now is that there's going to I've been through some extensive work with a couple of different people at a place called Landmark Education, where we sat back in the 90s, and there was myself and a man who was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. And we talked to each other for 45 words about the N-word. 45 minutes. We didn't just use the N-word. We said the whole word. And we were examining where the power is in that word. And what we just determined was there is no power in the word. There's only power in the training of the listeners. If you were listened to hear that word, either like you're in and it's okay. You know how many times I've been called the N-word by friends in my life? More than I can count. I'm clearly not of color. I'm of this color, okay? However, when you get to be friends with somebody and it's their jargon, and I dated a gal named Debbie Farmer. I hope she's great wherever she is, but I was about 18 years old at the time. And I just asked her, and I said, how come it's okay for black people to use the N-word, but it's not okay for me? You know what her answer was? Because nobody can say the N-word like an N-word, And so all of this got down, and we got to a point where, are we really in this, and are we playing fair, on all sides, or are we using tactics to get what we want? I don't have an answer to this, but I think that we're going to have conversations at that level on both sides in different places where people take chances and risk in terms of what they're willing to say. Because I want to say that in those skinny branches where people are really testing each other in terms of how committed are you, to my life and I'm committed to yours, that occurs where people don't have the language yet and they're willing to make mistakes. So with that said, thank you for your kind listening, and I will be more than happy to listen to a counterpoint.
I don't have a counterplay, but I want to thank you for, you never know when to step out, and it's a safe zone. But with your experiences and, how you view things is very, it touches me. Because, when I would say I don't see color, I see human beings, and I'm so about humanity, regardless. And to I have felt kind of like, well, not being made wrong, but just what am I saying wrong, or why, how come I'm feeling like, okay, maybe I should be more towards this Black Lives Matter movement in not all lives matter, but so I could never really find a place to stand. I'll stand up for any human. I will, if it's someone being wronged, absolutely. I find it hard to be inside of one culture, or again, right? One culture. We're inside of America. We have become all cultures. It's not just one. I do understand and feel when that statement was made about Vanessa. It's you're right. It's the forest. We need to save the rainforest, but there are particular trees that we need to really pay attention to now, because the beetle's going to eat those, and then it's going to trickle down. And so I get the analogy of that. And then in your conversation, Bill, it just comes to light. You are so right. We're almost giving power to the wrong source. And we don't even see it. We don't even know.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the history that you pointed has gotten washed away. And other parts of it have been kind of exacerbated. And I don't really know where I was going with that, but that's just the feeling that I got after you sharing that. So I really thank you for sharing that, because that was stepping out. If this podcast I was just thinking, okay, now we're in a controversial podcast. If this were to go Facebook Live, it would be blowing up the system right now, which is what? Good. That's what we want. We want people to
Amen.
Hear it, acknowledge it, rebuke it. Like, what is it that? And we don't know. We don't know what'll come of it. But I wanted to thank you for that.
Well, you're entirely welcome, and it's appropriate that we don't have language for this conversation.
Right.
For 50 years, we've been told you can't talk about that. You'll make somebody feel bad. Okay. Well, I keep wanting to say an expletive, but people are feeling bad. Have you noticed? Ain't working, guys, So now what we have to do is we have to figure out how we can sit down and get to just that basic level where everybody has set aside and recognizes that their response is totally appropriate, to their conditioning, to their environment, to everything that they've seen on TV. We've all been programmed to view the world in a particular fashion, and funny enough, we do. It's very effective, and it's also ineffective in terms of having a community that works. I have to say one thing, trying to resolve all of this stuff with laws. I think we've discovered the bankruptcy in that. We've discovered the bankruptcy in terms of many people trying to tag themselves onto a cause. We've just seen so many things where it gets used by somebody other than its intended purpose, and then somebody gets fired as president of this big movement, or it's like nuts. But the point is that we have to have a cultural change here. There has to be a groundswell of people just saying, enough's enough. Let's raise our children to appreciate everybody. Let's not celebrate diversity. No, just people. You come in. It's like that picture of Spanky and our gang, or the rest of it. When I went out to play, whoever showed up, got on the baseball field and we played. That was it. End of game. Okay. So where I'm coming from in all of this is the eggs have to be broken in order for the omelet to really taste good in the future. And people have to be willing to take the chance and risk being inappropriate, turning some people off for a minute, and getting the attention of the right people who really are interested in change and upgrade. We're talking about transformation here. And transformation, the way that Buckminster Fuller talked about it, is the caterpillar has no idea, and there is no information in the caterpillar that would ever lead you to believe that it's going to be a butterfly. right? So we are where we are right now. Being able to tell it like it is. These are the facts. This is what we know. And forget all of the past talk, bringing that in like these are the reasons why. No one cares who's right about the reasons why if people are dying. Let's move this on to the next level where we're actually exchanging ideas. So, all right. I really didn't think when we were talking about lighting the candle that we'd be having this conversation right now. And I am going to suggest that we do invite some people who have another point of view, who have been raised in slightly different circumstances, on to engage in this conversation. So I'm willing to go out and find some daring souls. And how about you? Is there anybody else that you can think of right off the top of your head that there's someone that comes to mind? Yes, Lisa?
Well, I was thinking too, because the woman that I spoke of that goes to our church and is involved in education as well, but she was also mentioning that she finds it very important for the groups to have their own time as well together.
Right.
So especially within the university culture, that they have a safe place to talk amongst themselves. So I thought that was an interesting perspective too, to bring that out now when this is all happening. Like everybody's saying, let's all, kumbaya. And she's saying, well, we all need to be able to talk in safe situations as well. So I thought she might be an interesting guest.
I'd be more than happy to have her on. I think that's a good idea. The thing that I want everyone to bear in mind here, this is like a rainstorm. As many businesses that were burnt to the ground, as many protesters and cops that have been injured or killed over the last 2 to 3 weeks, it's not over. This is going to be brought up every opportunity to make a political statement by somebody. So here's what's really, we all have to get to the point where we say, this is nonsense for us to react so violently to COVID, for us to react so violently to everything that happens, no matter who it involves. We have to be able to have our lives work and not be on the edge of our seats feeling bad about who we are. And I personally am not going to apologize to anybody for where I was born. It was the freaking win in the lotto, okay? I know that. We're here where we are right now, exercising whatever it is that we're exercising, and I invite everybody else to have the same privilege that I do. I don't care who you are. Bring it, So, yeah. I have opinions. Can you tell?
Nah.
All right. So let's just see here. Ken, do you have anything to add, or Vanessa? Vanessa, are you still there?
I am, yes.
Cool. What do you think?
Just taking it all in.
It is hard to respond to, isn't it? Thank you for that brilliant. Are you going to...
I didn't want to.
Go ahead.
You kind of both asked us both at the same time, so I didn't want to speak over.
I was going to thank you for that brilliant silence. Sometimes the answer is nothing. So if you do have something to say, I always want to hear it. And if it's not for go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I did have, I'm careful about what I want to say, because I feel like, when we each have our few minutes to just, contribute what we want to contribute this day to the conversation, and then just let it simmer and take it all in and listen to each of our opinions, if they're opinions or just our various thoughts on everything. and then we come back again next week. And, you know, I mean, I came to this conversation with an open mind to just hear what everyone has to say. So, but there is one particular song. So I figured, why not just share some lyrics, since I'm the previous songwriter. And music speaks volumes, as we know.
I wish you could see our smiling faces.
Oh, I wish I could too. I'm actually not even on the video at all. It just goes right along with what you were saying, Bill. And this is a Christian songwriter named Mandisa, who recorded a song called Bleed the Same. We all bleed the same. We're more beautiful when we come together. We all bleed the same. So tell me why we're divided. Woke up today, another innocent life is taken in the name of hatred, so hard to take. And if we think that it's all good, then we're mistaken, because my heart is breaking. Are you left? Are you right? Pointing fingers, taking sides. When are we going to realize we all bleed the same? We're more beautiful when we come together. We all bleed the same. So tell me why we're divided. If we're going to fight, let's fight for each other. If we're going to shout, let love be the cry. We all bleed the same. So tell me why we're divided.
Perfect.
Tell me who you are to judge someone by the kind of clothes they're wearing or the color of their skin. This is in here too. Are you black? Are you white? Aren't we all the same inside? Father, open our eyes to see. We all bleed the same. We're all more beautiful when we come together. We all bleed the same. So tell me why we're divided. If we're going to fight, let's fight for each other. If we're going to shout, let love be the cry. All lives matter, because Jesus Christ died for every person, every race. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Navajo, Chinese. It doesn't matter. So some of the things you're saying, Bill, I was wondering if, you mentioned one thing that made me think of the word identity. If people are jumping on movements just because they're craving a sense of identity, I don't know. The bridge of the song is only love can drive out all the darkness. What are we fighting for? We were made to carry one another. We were made for more. So
that's beautiful.
United we stand, divided we fall. I just shake my head. That's all. I side with you, Bill, in everything you were saying, because like the song says, we all believe the same. We all have the same cold blood inside. So why are we, why do we see differences? Is it a heart issue? I don't know. Okay. Well, that's what you get for coaxing out of my minute of silence.
I loved it.
That was awesome.
My heart could hear you, Vanessa, during the silence. So,
interesting.
If I may, we've got about 5 minutes left. I'd like to put a little bow on this from my perspective, because I really, really stuck my neck out in terms of what I said publicly. And I am coming from love. I am coming from respect. I'm coming from, being an undauntable champion for the possibility of being of all human beings. And that's not something I say lightly. It actually moves me when I say it. So where I'm coming from, this is not the easy way. And it takes some courage to stand out there in the middle of and be ready and willing to take on all comers and allow them to have the perspective that they have right now, and just grant them being. Allow them to be angry. Allow them, to be upset. Allow them to not be well thought through. Allow them to act out and do physical violence things. However, pay the price, because there is responsibility and accountability for us all. Our behaviors as children or as adults in society have consequences. They have good consequences and they have bad consequences. And we raise people up when we hold them to account, and we train them that they have a partnership in keeping this society going and growing. We can be out of business here shortly, folks. I mean, it can happen. It's happened before in very, very short order. So the point is, can we all gather together because we all bleed the same? That said, we'll do one last round here before the hour is up and give everybody an opportunity to kind of chip in, okay? Lisa, you're batting first today.
I guess. I know I was on your right, though, but I want to say a couple things. One thing was that I had a gathering on Saturday night with just a group of spiritual people. And one of the things that one of the women said was, like, I compared it to when Mr. Rogers said, when something horrible is happening, look for the helpers. But this said to look for the good in people. And it kind of helped me realize, like, my father has a lot of isms in him. And I love the man to death, you know, but I think if I can, and I know I can see the good in him because he's my dad, but if you take that approach with other people, you know, like, look for the good and start from there. Like you said, you can start a conversation, you know, with anybody if you look from not what they're doing wrong, but maybe something that you can find familiar ground with. So actually, that's my closing.
Awesome. Thank you. Vanessa?
I don't know if she heard you, Bill, because I barely heard you.
Oh, okay. Vanessa, are you there?
Oh, yes, I am. Sorry, I didn't hear you call.
But you're always free to use silence as well, because it is very hard.
What Lisa was saying is that, you know, it's like the unity now before the division. Like, to understand before, you know, trying to be understood. So they're in a freelance writer, originally a songwriter, but I'm someone who believes in healing and contributing, and that discusses
Oh, I think we lost her.
Yeah,
Did y'all
unfortunately.
hear me?
No, we are
You
fading.
were cutting out.
You want me to say it again?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Or
There
is
you
it
are.
intro? Did you hear what I said? I agreed with what Lisa was saying
No,
in her spiritual gathering on Saturday.
now we do. Yes.
What's that?
We didn't, but we do now.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
like that, what you said, Lisa. And,
One of
No,
these
look
days,
for that.
we're going to get you hooked up with an appropriate internet device.
that would be wonderful.
Okay, that's going to be our game. Okay. We'll
Yeah.
move on to Ken because we're pressing up against the hour. And thank you for really moving the conversation, Vanessa. Appreciate it. Ken?
I was just struck by the either or versus both and kind of mindset, you know. So, and a lot of times, like, just take the all lives matter, Black Lives Matter, you know, either or. Now you have division instead of both and. Both of those things can be true. Which one requires a little bit more attention and nurturing right now? Because every system, sometimes the plants need more sunlight, sometimes they need more water. Yeah, sometimes they need less of something.
Yeah.
So, you know, so it's just kind of interesting. I think that what was very elegant was Vanessa's silence is probably what we need, is a little less noise and space, you know, to be silent. It's actually, we did that with a grad school group. We'd ask a question and I'd refuse to fill the silence. And we taught them to recognize the tension in the silence and to become comfortable resting in it until it's time to speak something that's actually going to be positive, productive, and promote safety in the environment. So But a long time ago, I was taught to replace the word but with the word and.
Yes.
And it's amazing what it does. It just completely changes your whole perception of how you view things. So I want to get in shape, but I don't have time. And just change it to I want to get in shape and I don't have time. Now you've opened up the possibility of a solution to that. So that was what struck me through all of this,
Great.
upstream cures.
Thanks, Ken. Shelley.
Very cool. So I have two quotes. One is, to Vanessa's, we all bleed the same, and why we're here. And it's a verse from the Bible. I don't know what verse, but someone quoted it and I wrote it down, and it resonated with me. It's do not get weary doing good work. So that kind of goes along with, the conversation. And then I think the overall umbrella is I know what I stand for. And, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So, that's what I'm going to leave with.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen with an A, thank you very much for your time, your energy, your thoughts, and perspective. Love you guys, and you guys have a really, really magnificent rest of the week. Okay, go knock them alive. All right.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, all.
All right.
Thanks, Bill.
Bill, thanks
Lisa,
everyone.
bye, Vanessa.
Bye
Take
for
care,
Bye,
everybody.
guys. Have a good week.
Bye.
You too.
You've been listening to Lighting the Candle, A World That Works, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can hear us at exvadio.com/podcasts, Apple Podcasts app, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and wherever you find podcasts.